Hey everybody, welcome to a new semester and welcome to our new sports show, Rock Sports Showdown. I'm your host, Cameron Collins. We've changed up our format a bit and we welcome to the show two brand new analysts, Ryan Noblet and Kenny Moore, alongside the Wiley veteran, Big Dave Miller. Our show this year will work like around the horn, with myself handing out points to the analysts throughout the topics. The analyst with the most points at the end of the show will be the winner and have 30 seconds of face time to gloat, rant, etc., etc. So with that out of the way, let's get started. Slippery Rock football kicked off the season with a 51-36 point victory over Northwood University. Leading the charge was Nigel Barksdale, who threw for 465 yards and 6 touchdowns. Dave, what are your takeaways from this game?
Well, it shows that Slippery Rock still has a great offense. You saw last year with Jared Buck and the mixture of Nigel Barksdale when Jared Buck went down, that they still had a great offensive attack, but nothing like this. Barksdale or Buck didn't put numbers up like this at all. Nigel Barksdale setting a school record with 6 touchdowns in one game, which is insane, starting off with a 78-yard touchdown pass. And it just shows that they are kind of relying on the offense so far, just like they had that great offense 2 years ago when they won 54-0 in their home opener against Cheney. But still, the defense is still lacking there. But it's kind of improved since last year, but if they can improve on this defense, look for a great year for the Slippery Rock Grinders this year.
Kenny, what about you?
I believe they had a great game against Northwood University. They showed a lot of big playability that I felt was lacking last year. Scoring as many points as they did, they showed they had an up-tempo, high-tempo offense, kind of like that of Chip Kelly from Oregon, now with the Philadelphia Eagles. Like Ken Amos started the game off with the long play from Nigel, who also like Dave said here set the school record. So I think it's good. I think the season's going to be great for the Slippery Rock University football team.
Ryan?
I mean, it's pretty obvious that Nigel Barksdale had a very Peyton Manning-like game. It wasn't quite that level with what Peyton Manning threw, 7 touchdowns.
Yeah.
But Slippery Rock had just high power, high tempo offense, like Dave said. There's something lacking with the defense. They gave up 36 points to a team that's clearly outmatched in pretty much every facet. But Slippery Rock's defense clearly isn't the same as it was when it let up less than 10 points a game on average 2 years ago.
Yep.
But I think this team will still compete. It'll be interesting to see what happens next week against Shippensburg. Shippensburg was picked to finish first in the PSAC East. So it'll be interesting to see how Slippery Rock matches up against a high-power team from the east side of state.
You look at Shippensburg now. They came off a game against Shepherd University in West Virginia, lost 31-0. Zach Zulli's still the quarterback there. I have no idea what happened there. They gave up, I believe, over 200 yards rushing on Shippensburg. Gave up 200 yards rushing. So this week could be a good game as well. A lot better than last year. What Slippery Rock did this week was like how they lost to Shippensburg last year in week 2 when Jared Buck went down, and that was Barksdale's coming out party about how well he can play as well.
I think it's gonna be a show. It's gonna be a great show, a great showing for our football team here at Slippery Rock. I look forward to Barksdale having another great performance, as well as the contributors that did well this past week in Michigan. I think they'll have a great game. Again, I think they'll win.
If you really think about it, you have 2 high-power offenses. One didn't really perform last week, one did. So it'll be interesting to see how Shippensburg readjusts and tries to play against the usually hard-nosed Slippery Rock defense. I don't know if it's going to be the same this year as it has been in the past. Last year was a little shaky at best sometimes. But if they can get back to that same defense they were 2 years ago, I think this team can do a lot of damage.
All right, well, moving on to the next topic. Week 1 of the NFL is almost in the books with 2 games left to be played tonight. We've seen some very good performances so far, and we've seen some not-so-good performances. Kenny, who do you think had some of the better performances or some of the worst performances this past week?
Oh, well, I was very impressed with New Orleans Saints. I think coming out beating the #1 team in the NFC last year with the Atlanta Falcons, I think they really, set the bar high. Their coach finally coming back, and Sean Payton. I think that was great for them to get their first win. I also believe that the New England Patriots, as always, had a good game. I think they kind of got lucky at the end, beating the Bills. But, Tom Brady's always going to be Tom Brady. Peyton Manning obviously had a phenomenal game. 7 touchdowns, over 400 yards passing, high-powered offense again from the Broncos. I'm looking forward to a great year from the Broncos as well as the 49ers. Colin Kaepernick, you are amazing. Over 400 yards passing, just phenomenal. You beat him with your legs last year. This year you beat him with your arm. They can't stop you. They cannot stop you.
All right, Ryan?
I agree with Kenny with Kaepernick. I mean, I figured teams would have figured him out by now, but he just keeps lighting up the league, doing whatever it is he wants. And once again, it was against Green Bay like he did. Was that his first start or was that in the playoffs?
Playoffs last year.
Playoffs last year.
Set a
Playoffs last year.
Record for the quarterback.
Dominated out of nowhere. Well, it wasn't really out of nowhere. It had been building for the last couple weeks of the season. But he just blew up the Packers, did it again. And a disappointing performance, actually, I today would probably go to the Jacksonville Jaguars, only scoring 2 points. I don't think I've seen a team only score 2 points since the NFC playoff game between the Falcons and the Giants a few years ago. But like we said, Peyton Manning and Kaepernick were the two real big standout quarterbacks this week. We'll see what Vic and Matt Schaub do tonight, and Robert Griffin and who the Texans playing?
Chargers.
San Diego Chargers. The Rivers isn't going to do anything. Let's be honest.
Dave?
The interesting fact about that Chiefs and Jaguars game, that's the first time the final score was 28-2 in an NFL game ever. So I thought that was pretty interesting. But I want to say the worst performance of this week was the Yinzer Nation around here for the Pittsburgh Steelers. This season they weren't going into this season very well. 0-4. The only other 0-4 team in the preseason was the Atlanta Falcons. And preseason really doesn't mean anything. But when your offensive line is a very young core that looked very shaky throughout the entire playoffs, and your best offensive lineman goes down with an ACL injury and MCL injury to take you out for the entire year, your signal caller goes out with an injury, torn bicep, and one of your carousel of running backs goes out on a torn ACL, and only scoring 9 points, which should have been 0 points in essence because of the safety that happened at the beginning of the game and the touchdown that the Titans basically gave them with the prevent defense. The Steelers, I didn't expect to do well, but I didn't expect them to play this poorly.
I didn't think there was any scenario where the Steelers would have lost to the Titans. That was really surprising.
Oh, especially at home after a 10-game home opener winning streak.
Yeah,
and then it gets spoiled by Jake Locker and company.
And they even slowed down Chris Johnson. They did a really good job at containing him.
Yeah, and
they still weren't able to
always done
stop
a great job with that.
Yeah, and touching on Chris Johnson, Chris Johnson came into the year in the summer saying that he would have over 2,000 yards rushing this year. After watching that performance, I'm not so sure. Granted, the Pittsburgh Steelers do have one of the most potent defensive in the league. Also, touching on what Dave said about the two 0-4 teams in the preseason, I believe 16% of teams that finish 0-4 don't end up make the playoffs. So I'm not so sure that the Pittsburgh Steelers and Atlanta Falcons like those numbers, but we'll see if they can make a difference and actually become one of the few that actually do make the playoffs.
All right. Well, sticking with the NFL, now that we've seen 1 week of play, Ryan, who are your picks for the Super Bowl and why?
Right now, I mean, we discussed it last topic, but I got to stay with the two big picks here. 49ers, Broncos. Clearly the two best teams last week. As I said, Niners, they lit up Green Bay. Broncos, it was close for a while in that Ravens game, but it just got to a point where every time I turned around, the Broncos were scoring. It got absurd. 7 touchdowns by Manning. The running game didn't really appear too much for the Broncos, I don't think. But as a whole, I think the Broncos and the Niners, two best teams, and at this early point in the season, you have to pick the two best teams to go to the Super Bowl, in my opinion.
There's really no argument for this, really. You look, video game numbers with Peyton Manning. And same with Colin Kaepernick. Eli Manning had a ton of yards, but he also had a ton of turnovers as well. And the Cowboys weren't even capitalizing on all those turnovers either. So you look, and the best teams after week 1 until these next 2 games are over are the San Francisco 49ers and the Denver Broncos. You can't really argue that. But you could also make a statement for a team like the New England Patriots every year. Tom Brady coming in with a new wide receiver crew. Only one receiver this year in week 1 caught a reception last year as well, because the other The other receivers and tight ends are either in Denver, injured, or in jail. So Julian Edelman, one of the only people that actually came back from last year. So you can always put up an argument for the New England Patriots no matter what. Their defense against a rookie quarterback can go either way. You don't know what to expect with EJ Manuel going into his first NFL start. But then again, you want to contain an NFL rookie quarterback. Otherwise, it's like it just demoralizes you when a quarterback goes up against a team like that and makes the game that close. So for sake of argument, if it's not Denver and San Fran, I think New England's going to make it because there's really only two powerhouses in the AFC right now, unless Houston can stay healthy.
Broncos, just like I said, absolutely just phenomenal this past week, as well as the 49ers. I believe that those two right now are definitely the cream of the crop. No doubt in my mind that they'll definitely be in the running. I think the better question is who's going to compete against them. Anquan Bolden, just stellar performance, 13 receptions for over 200 yards, just unbelievable performance from him, as well as Colin Kaepernick. So, like I said, the better question is who will compete. We haven't seen the Eagles yet. Last year they had a pretty bad year, but I look forward to them coming up big this year with a new coach and Chip Kelly. I would say that they'd be a team to compete because of their high-powered offense and quick offensive players, as well as the Texans. We haven't seen them yet. They're in action tonight, as well against the Chargers, and I look forward to seeing Andre Johnson have a great game, as well as Adrian Foster. I look forward to them playing very well and being in the running as well with the Broncos, same as they were last year before losing to the Patriots.
I think the biggest issue with the Texans right now seems like they kept pretty much the same core team as last year, and they got injured. They had a lot of injuries, obviously, but at the same time, they didn't really impress me in the playoffs after they beat Cincinnati for the second year in a row. As long as they get the Bengals in the first round, they'll get to the second round.
I believe that the Texans did. They made a little bit of an improvement signing Ed Reed. Granted, Ed Reed has his injury issues, but he's going to make a difference come playoff time, especially against the Patriots or against a big team, because he comes from the Ravens. Has a lot of experience coming off winning a championship. Look out for the Texans. I definitely think that they can do damage this year.
Dave, any last comments?
I don't think I've got an original Super Bowl pick out there, so I'm just going to have to go with Denver and San Fran.
Okay. All right, well, we're halfway through our topics, and we're going to take a quick commercial break. I'll have the point standings for you all when we return, so we'll be right back after this.
Hi, this is Madison from TV Naturally in the Library.
Hi, I'm Jamie.
I'm Eric.
Hi, I'm Lori Martella from the History Department.
Hi, I'm Dr. Marshall from the Communication Department.
Hi, my name's Rita.
My name is Mac Dean.
Hi, my name is Chris Liberty.
I'm Steve Luderin, a student here at Slippery Rock.
Hey, I'm Cody Moody. And I'm Tim Durr.
You're watching Channel 27.
Channel 27.
Where you're watching WSRU-27.
Channel 27.
And you're watching WSRU-TV, Channel 27.
Make sure you tune into Channel 27.
And we watch WSRU Channel 27. And I'm watching WSRU Channel 27.
And you're watching WSRU Channel 27. And I watch WSRU-TV Channel 27.
Welcome back to Rock Sports Showdown. Once again, I'm your host, Cameron Collins, and with me are our analysts, Ryan Noblet, Kenny Moore, and Big Dave Miller. The current point standings are Ryan with 15, Big Dave with 18, and Kenny with 19. We have 3 more topics, so it's still anybody's game. We're going to switch gears over to some college football. We've seen some upsets and some really great performances in the first 2 weeks of the season. In the BCS's last year, do you guys think the SEC will continue its national championship dominance, or is there a team out there that you see could dethrone the powerhouse that is the SEC? Ryan, go ahead and kick it off.
I mean, I think the SEC has some of the best teams in the country. You have Alabama, Florida, who lost actually, Georgia, who has a chance to climb back up the standings if a couple other teams lose. But I think the biggest threats to the SEC dominance are Oregon, Louisville, Clemson. I usually don't say that about Clemson because it seems like every time I watch Clemson, they lose. They're supposed to be this really great team. I always watch them and they get destroyed on national TV. But They've been playing pretty well so far. I'm really impressed with Clemson. I'm really impressed with Teddy Bridgewater from Louisville. And Oregon, as usual, even with Chip Kelly gone to the Eagles, as Kenny mentioned earlier, the Ducks are still that high-powered, high-offense team, and they still look great, blowing teams out 70, whatever, to 20.
Dave?
Like usual.
And you look at the top 3 teams, Alabama, Oregon, and Ohio State. Only one of them is an SEC team right now. Granted, you got South Carolina, Georgia, and Clemson. Georgia had to face both of those teams. They lost to Clemson as they were number 5, and Clemson was number 8. Then as Georgia was number 11, they beat number 6 South Carolina. So really, those are kind of skewed standings right now because they weren't even going up against like the Division II schools that like most teams usually warm up with. But now, what's going to be interesting is this SEC showdown coming out this week with Texas A&M and Alabama, and that's really going to show, at least in my opinion, who's going to win this year, like SEC or not. Because if Johnny Football can pull off a win here, I'm not feeling too confident about how like the short chance that Alabama's going to win. Because A.J. McCarron has as many championships as he does losses in his career. Think about that. But if Alabama does win, I see nobody dethroning because I see Alabama winning again. So, but likelihood of an SEC team not winning this year, probably around like a 65 to a 35 right now. So until this weekend comes up, I'm going to say SEC's got it this year.
Kenny?
I believe SEC is a powerhouse. That entire conference is just the cream of the crop, as I stated before. SEC with Texas A&M, which is my favorite in the SEC this year. I know Alabama's number 1 and all, but hey, they play Texas A&M this week. Johnny Football, he didn't win the Heisman for no reason. And honestly, right now, he's my early favorite for this year's Heisman because without him, that team doesn't win. I feel as though they don't. And Alabama, yes, they're a good team, but I don't think they're Goliath. I think, and if they are Goliath, then Johnny Football is definitely David. Therefore, that's my pick this week between 1 and 7, in Alabama and Texas A&M. But I do believe that there are other teams that could possibly come in and make a change. Oregon is definitely a team that could possibly come and win. Having a few lopsided victories to start the season. I also believe that Clemson or Louisville could come in. Teddy Bridgewater did have a great couple games to start the season, as well as the Clemson quarterback Boyd. I think he's having a great year so far. So I look to see him in the Heisman race as well. Boyd is doing a great job leading his team to victories. But you just can't escape Alabama. I feel like Alabama in the SEC is definitely going to be at the top. But if any team's going to beat them, and if they're going to get dethroned this year, the one team I think that will do it will be Texas A&M. And if Texas A&M can beat Alabama, then they're going to. I think they're the number 1 favorite, and they should move up to at least the top 3 if they can beat them, if not number 1, because they're my favorite.
I think any team that beats Alabama deserves a right to be in the top 3, to be honest. But I do agree with what you said about the Heisman race. Obviously, Manziel, Bridgewater, Boyd are leading the way right now. I think McCarron's kind of a dark horse at this point. If he can if Alabama does beat A&M next weekend, and McCarron has a monster game, I can kind of see him sliding into that Heisman race. I wouldn't put him ahead of any of them unless his game's just that ridiculously stellar that he just blows everyone's mind. But I don't really think McCarron's that kind of quarterback. He's kind of like a system guy, just sort of plays his own way and leads his team to victory in whatever way possible.
We're not talking about the SEC right now, but does anybody remember Jameis Winston's performance against Pitt that first week? 25 of 27, 350-plus yards, and 4 passing touchdowns and 1 rushing touchdown. He's a true freshman, I believe he's a true freshman. So, he can pull for Johnny Manziel this year as well. So, it's not, I wouldn't say Johnny Manziel's a favorite, but he's definitely top 3 up there. Jameis Winston, once he goes into a hostile territory, though, will show whether he's ready for that or not.
I think until Johnny Manziel leaves, there can never be another Johnny Manziel. Johnny Football, you are amazing. Let me tell you. This man, he comes out amidst all the skepticism, everybody's saying that, all the things they want to say about him, you gotta love that guy. You gotta respect a guy like that. He did what he wanted to do this summer. You know, he got a little bit of trouble, scandals, whatever you want to call it. But you can't kill that guy. You know, he's like the Allen Iverson of college football. You know, he's the answer. And I feel like, you know, like he's Johnny Football for a reason. And watch out, Alabama. Watch out. If I'm them, I'm counting my blessings right now, because Johnny Football, if I recall, he did have a great game against them last year. So if I'm Alabama, I'm a little nervous right now.
Ryan, any last comments?
Just basically echoing what they said. Obviously, Manziel is probably, I'd say Manziel at this point, based on his last season and the maturity he's shown this season after that little bit of the problem last week with the taunting, I think he showed a lot more maturity this week. He's really showing that he's trying to grow as a quarterback and a person, which is really part of what college football is all about. He's preparing himself for the NFL, trying to get in there.
Also, I mean, talking about the scandal or the things that were going on, Johnny Manziel, you know, he's hanging out with LeBron. He's going and, you know, partying with Drake. You know, a lot of the big name guys, you know. I think a lot of that's getting to his head a little bit, or was getting to his head earlier in the summer, you know, when a lot of that stuff was going on. But I feel like he's settling down. He has a good coach, you know. He's kind of like the relationship isn't that of, you know, Donovan McNabb, Andy Reid, you know, back in that point in time. But, you know, I feel like when it's all said and done, Johnny Manziel and his coach will have a great relationship, and he'll be able to not control, but just, you know, have a good relationship with him where he can stop him from doing some of the negative things that he's doing off the field.
All right. Well, time to talk some baseball. Pirates are on a 4-game losing streak and are 1.5 games behind the Cardinals for the division title. With just 20 games left in the season, where do you guys see the Pirates finishing the season? Kenny?
Well, they kind of started spiraling, you know, downwards, as you said. I think everyone was high on them, you know, when they were, you know, they got that, you know, above 500 record. I was, you know, it's nice to see, you know, they were having a lot of bad years, you know, in years past, but it's nice to see McCutchen, you know, in the MVP race, and, you know, and he could win, but the Pirates, I see them finishing, you know, I think they'll make the playoffs, because I think they're, you know, the Reds are like in the same boat, but I think that the Pirates will prevail and get that number 1 spot.
Right?
I see the Pirates getting either the number 1 or the number 2 wild card. It doesn't really seem to matter at this point, because it's probably going to be Cardinals, Reds, Pirates, whatever order the 3 finish in. If the Pirates do make the play-in game and it's against the Cardinals or the Reds, just imagine that atmosphere. 1 game to get in the playoffs. Pirates versus their 2 biggest rivals in their division. It'll just be electric. And I think the Pirates right now, they usually have that late season swoon. But this year it's a little different because it's happened after they already got 500. They already appeased the fans. Everyone's happy. Everyone's high on them. So we'll see how they do for the rest of the season. And if they can kind of catch fire in the last 20 games, even slightly, maybe right at the end, maybe in the middle of these last 20 games, maybe we'll see the Pirates make a run into the playoffs.
The Pirates are on a cold streak right now. So, because there's a streak in June when they lost 4 in a row. They got swept by Atlanta on the road. I mean, they had troubles on the road this year. So every team's really had that. But now the Pirates are having it at the end of the year during a playoff round. So everyone's watching it, critiquing it right now. It's just a cold streak. If the Pirates get a win here tonight, they're going to be fine for the rest of the year. But I'm going to go pretty bold here because 60% of the playoff teams in the NL are going to be in one division, if you think about it in that respect. So honestly, I think the team that's going to win the division this year is the Reds, because like even though they might have some inconsistent pitching, they just came off a sweep with the Dodgers. They have a pretty easy schedule ahead of them right now with about 14 of the teams under 500 at this point, and like the rest of them are against the Pirates. So the 6 of the 20 are against the Pirates, and those are going to be their last 9 games. So, and then I think the Pirates are going to get that number 2 wild card spot because they're never in a run like this. And you look at every September record that they've had has not been that great. It's always been in the summer when they can play pretty well. So no one was really worried when we lost 4 in a row in the summer. Everyone's worrying now that we're already at 81 wins, and now we're trying to push for a division title because there's a different standing here. There's a different crown jewel to go after. But Clint Hurdle said at the beginning of the year that this team was going to win 95 games, and that's still possible to go 14-6. It's a little improbable once you look at the teams. Like maybe 11-7 would be more understanding. But I can still hope for that 95. But if they do get the 95, they're definitely going to win the division.
The last time the Pittsburgh Pirates won 95 games, I believe Barry Bonds was in a uniform. And I believe that was 1992. I wasn't thought of. I don't know if you guys were, but I don't see that happening. It's possible, you know, if they reach 95 wins this year and they make the playoffs and they're number one, McCutcheon's your MVP. But if not, and the Cardinals win, I think someone on the Cardinals should be the MVP because they're obviously a better team. You know, I don't believe the Reds will come back and be number one. They may finish number 2 and get the number 1 wild card spot while the Pirates fall to number 2 and have that play-in game. But 95 wins to me for Pittsburgh, unless Barry Bonds comes back, you know, minus the steroids. I just don't see it happening.
Ryan?
Even with the steroids, I think he'd be pretty good too. But as long as he didn't get caught. But I think no team wants to make that play-in. So all 3 of these teams are going to be playing to win that division. They're going to go all in. They're going to do whatever it is they can do to try to get into the playoffs as a division champion. Because that one-game play-in, it's drawn a lot of criticism from baseball fans. As I said, for Pirates fans, if they end up being in it, Pirates fans, it'll be just awesome. I mean, obviously, the Pirates will want to get that division crown. I'm sure the fans would rather be guaranteed at least a 5-game series instead of a 1-game, kicked right out of the playoffs. But just the prospect of a game like that's the reason baseball put this in.
Well, I mean, yeah, you're right. It would definitely spark the city of Pittsburgh. Hopefully, you know, for the Pittsburgh Steelers fans, it would actually, you know, spark them a little bit. You know, they had an abysmal performance, but the Pittsburgh Pirates, like he said, you know, it would be great for the city of Pittsburgh to finally get back on the winning, you know, page and just, you know, start something fresh and hopefully continue it with McCutcheon and the respective players the Pittsburgh Pirates have.
Dave, final comment?
This wild card rule, it should either be a 3-game series or just 1 wild card, because this 1-game wild card stuff is really just too nitpicky, because in baseball, it's not about 1 game. It's about a series. The only time it's about 1 game is whenever it's Game 7, and that's about it. But you already played 6 games before that. So there's either the wild card, it should be 2 wild card teams with a 3-game series, and whoever has a better record gets the 2 home games if they need both home games, or it should just be how it was before with 1 playoff team. Because if you look at the NBA and the NHL, over 50% of the teams in each conference make the playoffs. In baseball right now, it's 30%. 5 teams, or 33.3, all those numbers go on, percent in each league to make the playoffs. This shows you the best teams make it. Unlike the NBA and NHL, where some stragglers, under 500, can even make it as well. So it's either got to be 3 games or no wild card playing game as well.
All right. We need to move on a little bit. On to our final topic. The AL MVP race has been over for months, with Miguel Cabrera appearing as if he will win back-to-back MVP awards. The NL MVP is a different story. Who do you guys feel should take home the NL MVP crown? Dave.
I think it's pretty simple that Andrew McCutcheon should. You look at his numbers since August 1st, where he's batting .395 since August 1st. So that over a month period of time, he's almost hitting 400. To hit 4 out of 10 every 10 at-bats, that's insane. Only how many players have done it in a season? 2? Ty Cobb, that's the only number. That's the only name I can think of right now. But if the Pirates do win the division as well, that even gives you a better chance to do it as well. You look at the 2011 NL MVP, little up in the air right now because of what happened before, but at the time when it happened, Ryan Braun basically got it simply on the merit that the Brewers made it to the playoffs and won that division. Matt Kemp had better numbers, but his team won under 500 with 60-plus wins. So if you need to include winners in there, it has to be Kutch if the Pirates win. Also, Kutch has the best WAR in the NL. So that should be another reason for McCutchen to win. Kershaw is in the running. I don't like it because there's already an award for the pitchers for the best pitcher, which is the Cy Young. MVP is for the best player on the field that's on there every day. Pitcher, five-day rest or 4-day rest with a 5-man rotation. So honestly, I think Cut should win it. And if he doesn't win it, I'm picking Alan Craig. Best average with runners in scoring position in the past 2 years. And if you want to look historically, has a better span in 2 years than Hank Aaron, than Ichiro, than Paul Molitor. You can't beat those numbers.
Well, it's no shock. Fans love winners. The MVP award to me does go to the most valuable player, and honestly, McCutchen is definitely the most valuable player. I feel like without McCutchen, they may not win. The Pittsburgh Pirates, I'm speaking of. But, it's just like the NBA, LeBron James. LeBron James, in my opinion, will win the MVP every single year as long as the Miami Heat keep winning because people love winners. And McCutchen, he's a winner, and he comes to the team and they start winning. They win. They could possibly win 95 games this year. If they win 95 games this year, he's a shoo-in. Even if they win 90 wins and they make the playoffs, if they get 90 wins and they make the playoffs, he's a shoo-in. You can't take away, you can't stop a winner. You just can't do that. But if they don't and they just continue to derail or then I wouldn't give it to him. But he definitely deserves it. He definitely deserves it. And if not, you could have the argument that pitchers can't. Pitchers shouldn't win the MVP or. But pitchers, are a huge part in wins. Like if you can stop the other team from getting hits, and your team could just put 1 point on the board, then that's a win. And like I said, people love winners. So Carpenter, if the Cardinals continue to win and they get up above 95 wins or they get a high amount of wins, then I give it to Carpenter because he's a winner. And he's leading his team to wins by pitching as well as he does. So that's my take on it.
And the last time a pitcher won the MVP was the AL MVP when Verlander won it.
Yep.
And it really bothered a lot of people. Verlander had an excellent season that year. I don't think Kershaw or Carpenter from the Cardinals has had that great of a year, not Verlander-esque from that season. I personally think the pitcher should only win the MVP if they have such an exceptional season and there was no real good hitter in the lineup, since the Cy Young is for the pitchers and the MVP tends to be more for the hitters. But I also find it interesting, Kenny's point about winners. Sometimes you'll see a couple of teams in there, like when Jimmy Rollins won it for the Phillies back in 2005. Phillies didn't even make the playoffs that year, and Rollins won it. I was really confused as to why. I mean, Rollins had a wonderful season that year. Like, he was arguably the best player in baseball that year. But the Phillies didn't even make the playoffs. I mean, people like winners, and Rollins proved to be that winner with the Phillies in 2008. And beyond, they didn't quite go all the way, but it's another story. If you look at the MVP candidates, the ones that are being speculated on, Craig, Molina also from the Cardinals, Kershaw from the Dodgers, Carpenter from the Cardinals, McCutchen, these teams are all teams that are either well within the playoff race or are well within the wild card race, or the Dodgers, who had that excellent streak in the summer when they first called up Yasiel Puig. But like Kenny said, it is really about the winners. This year it seems that the best player on the best team is going to win the MVP award in the National League.
Dave?
Matt Carpenter has 112 runs scored, second baseman for the Cardinals. So, Matt Carpenter, he's one of the best leadoff men in the NL. Has the most doubles with, I believe, 45 after the Sunday game against the Pirates. And he's given his team a lot of opportunities to score runs because he's getting himself on base and in scoring position right away. 45 times right away he's in scoring position. So that's another reason why he's number one in the majors by about 15 runs in that category. So Matt Carpenter would be a good way. It'd be like a Jimmy Rollins kind of MVP winner on a winning team as well. So, Matt Carpenter don't throw them out of there, but I think Kutch and Craig are at the top two right now with their respective lineups.
Kenny?
I feel as though, hitting on the Jimmy Rollins point, I feel like that was key. A lot of people sometimes are kind of skeptical about who wins the MVP. I feel like no matter who wins, someone's going to have something to say about, who won and why he shouldn't have won or why he should have won. It's a never-ending dilemma. Everyone's going to have something to say. But the beauty of that is, no matter what they say, if I get the trophy, whoever gets the trophy, they have the trophy and you can't take it away. It goes back also, years past, Steve Nash won the MVP 2 years in a row. His team wasn't the best team in the league, but they did make the playoffs. They did make the playoffs, unlike the Jimmy Rollins and the Philadelphia Phillies that year. But they made the playoffs, played against the Lakers, and they lose, But Steve Nash was the most valuable player in the league because he led his team in all facets of the game, minus rebounding because, he had other players, obviously, that are bigger than him. But, going back to baseball, McCutchen, Craig, as he said, I believe they're at the top as well. And like I said, before, if McCutchen and the Pittsburgh Pirates can win 95 games, he's another Barry Bonds. Just don't do steroids, please.
Ryan?
Speaking of steroids, you said you can't really take that trophy away unless maybe you're Ryan Braun, and they might be able to take that away. Well, that's to be seen.
Let's cross our fingers for that.
That's to be seen, but I'm not going to say Yadier Molina can take the award, but all I'm going to say is Buster Posey took it last year, catcher for the Giants. So the catcher's become kind of that glory position here recently, with Russell Martin even on the Pirates, with Posey and Molina. The catcher position's really evolving, I think, as a more offensive. Because when I was growing up, I remember the catchers were hitting 180. Some teams still have catchers only hit 180, 200 on the year. Now it seems we're getting these MVP candidates who are catchers, and I think it's great.
Oh, fantastic.
All right, well, that brings us to the end. We have Ryan with 38 points, Kenny with 40, and our winner, Big Dave, with 42 points. Take your 30 seconds of FaceTime and go for it.
Miguel Cabrera is the best player in baseball. There's no doubt about it. Mike Trout, he's been in the league for almost 2 years now, and he's putting up fantastic numbers. But if you look at Miguel Cabrera, he does not have an off button unless he pulls something in his ribs or anything like that. But, anytime Miggy's on the field, if you make one mistake as a pitcher, you're Yu Darvish, you're Justin Verlander, you're anybody on the mound, get ready to be crushed. Miguel Cabrera is making another run for a Triple Crown. I don't think it's going to happen this year, but it's going to be close, just like last year.
All right, well, that's our show. Hope you all enjoyed it, and we'll tune in next week for another edition of our new show, Rock Sports Showdown. For Ryan Noblet, Kenny Moore, and Big Dave Miller, I'm your host, Cameron Collins, and we will see you next week.